Everything you have ever been taught about manifestation starts with the mind. Change your thoughts, shift your beliefs, visualize what you want, affirm the reality you are trying to create. And all of that is real, and all of that matters, but it is profoundly incomplete. And the missing piece is something that Dr. Bruce Lipton's research makes undeniable in a way that I think permanently changes how you relate to your own capacity to create. You are not just a mind trying to attract things into your life. You are 50 trillion cells, each one receiving signals from your perception of reality and building your physical experience from those signals, right now in this moment, whether you are consciously aware of it or not. Think about what that actually means. Every single one of those 50 trillion cells is listening. Not metaphorically, literally, biologically, measurably listening to the signals your mind is sending based on how it is interpreting your reality. And from those signals, your cells are making decisions about growth or contraction, about expansion or shutdown, about building toward life or preparing for threat. And those cellular decisions, multiplied across 50 trillion simultaneous biological events happening in your body right now, are constructing your physical experience of reality from the inside out. This is the piece of the manifestation conversation that almost nobody is talking about clearly enough. We focus on the mind, on conscious intention, on belief systems, on the quality of our visualizations, while the body, which is running its own extraordinarily powerful program underneath all of that conscious work, is often left completely out of the equation. Dr. Lipton describes the human body using an image that I find both scientifically precise and genuinely profound. He says that your body is like an enormous community of 50 trillion cells, and your blood is the medium that carries signals to all of them. And the controller of that medium, the intelligence that determines what signals go into the blood and therefore what messages every cell receives, is your mind. But not just your conscious mind, your entire perception of reality, the way you are interpreting what is happening around you, what you believe about your circumstances, what emotional state you are generating in response to your experience. All of it translates into chemical and biological signals that travel through your bloodstream and reach every single cell simultaneously. And here is the part that stopped me completely when I first truly absorbed it. Those signals are not general, they are specific. And two people can be in exactly the same external circumstances, having exactly the same objective experience, and be sending completely different signals to their cells based purely on the meaning they are making of what is happening. Imagine two people watching the same sunset. One looks at the colors spreading across the sky and feels a deep sense of peace, a connection to something beautiful, a gratitude for the moment, an expansive warmth in the chest. The other looks at the same sky and feels a quiet dread, another day ending, uncertainty about what tomorrow holds, a low-grade anxiety about time passing and things left undone. Same sunset, same light, same sky, completely different biological events happening inside two human bodies standing in the same place at the same moment. Because the cells of the first person are receiving signals of safety, expansion, and growth, the biological conditions under which the body heals, regenerates, and opens toward possibility. And the cells of the second person are receiving signals of threat, contraction, and survival, the biological conditions under which the body shuts down non-essential functions, tightens its resources, and prepares for danger. And Dr. Lipton's research makes clear that this is not a metaphor. The signals the mind sends to the cells based on perception literally change the genetic expression of those cells. They change which genes are activated and which are suppressed. They change the chemistry of the blood. They change the biological environment that every cell in your body is living in, moment by moment, thought by thought, emotional state by emotional state. Now bring this into the context of manifestation, and specifically into the context of financial manifestation, because this is where I have seen this principle operate with a clarity and a consistency that is impossible to ignore once you understand what you are looking at. If your perception of your financial reality is generating signals of fear, of scarcity, of not enough, of threat, of the possibility that things will not work out, then every single cell in your body is receiving those signals and responding to them biologically. Your body is not in a state of creation. It is in a state of survival. It is not building toward expansion. It is contracting toward protection. And from that biological state, regardless of what your conscious mind is intending, regardless of how clearly you can visualize the outcome you want, Regardless of how sincerely you are doing the work, you are broadcasting the frequency of scarcity from 50 trillion simultaneous biological sources. I lived this for years without understanding what was happening. I was doing the conscious work, the visualization, the intention setting, the belief shifting, while my body was running a completely different program underneath all of it. A program of financial fear that had been installed long before I had any conscious awareness of it. And that program was sending signals to my cells, and my cells were building my biological and energetic reality from those signals, with a consistency and a power that my 20 minutes of conscious morning practice simply could not override. By the end of this conversation, I am going to share exactly what that program was, and the moment I finally understood that my body, not my mind, had been the primary obstacle to everything I was trying to create financially. And the shift that happened when I stopped trying to manifest only from my conscious mind and started addressing the signals my entire body was broadcasting. But first, I want to make sure you understand the specific biological mechanism by which fear, the most common and most powerful program most people are running, blocks manifestation at the cellular level. Because once you see this clearly, the reason your conscious manifestation work has not been producing the results you expected starts to make complete and undeniable sense. If you are new here, hit subscribe and grab the free PDF on equal hours and their meanings linked in the description. Let's go deeper. So let's talk about fear, not as a psychological concept, not as a spiritual obstacle, but as a biological event, because understanding what fear actually does inside your body at the cellular level is what makes the connection between your emotional state and your manifestation capacity undeniable rather than abstract. Dr. Lipton's research reveals something about fear that I think is one of the most important and most overlooked pieces of the entire manifestation conversation. Fear is not just an unpleasant feeling. It is a biological program, one of the most ancient and most powerful programs the human body runs. And when it activates, it does not just change how you feel. It changes your entire biological environment at the cellular level in ways that are directly and measurably opposed to the conditions required for creation, growth, and genuine abundance. Here is the specific mechanism. When your mind perceives a threat, whether that threat is a predator in the environment, or a financial situation that feels dangerous, or a future scenario your imagination is generating, it sends an immediate signal through the nervous system and the bloodstream that puts every cell in your body on high alert. The biological response is immediate and comprehensive. Stress hormones flood the system. The blood vessels in your core constrict as blood is redirected to your limbs for fight or flight. Your immune system downregulates. Because when survival is the priority, healing and regeneration are luxuries the body cannot afford. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of creativity, of long-term thinking, of the higher cognitive functions that allow you to imagine a different future, goes partially offline as the more primitive survival brain takes over. In short, when fear is running, your body is in a state that is biologically incompatible with creation. Every cellular resource is oriented towards surviving the present threat rather than building toward a desired future. And from that biological state, manifestation, the process of aligning your energy with a new reality and allowing it to take physical form, becomes not just difficult but physiologically impossible. Now here's what makes this so significant for anyone working with the law of attraction. The fear program your body is running does not require an actual present threat to activate. It can be triggered just as powerfully by a memory, by an imagination of a future scenario, by a habitual thought pattern, by a deeply held belief about what is possible or what is safe. Which means that someone who carries a deep subconscious fear around money, a fear of not having enough, of financial instability, of the danger of expansion, can be triggering the full biological fear response dozens of times throughout an ordinary day without anything threatening actually happening in their external environment. I want to illustrate this with the example I find most clarifying. Imagine two people standing in the same place, looking at the same sunset. One experiences it as beautiful, feels the expansiveness of the sky, the warmth of the light, the quiet peace of the moment. Her cells are receiving signals of safety and growth. Her blood chemistry is oriented toward regeneration and expansion. Her body is in a state of genuine openness, the biological equivalent of a field ready to receive seeds. The other person looks at the same sunset and feels the familiar quiet anxiety of another day ending, the mental calculation of what was not accomplished, the low-grade worry about tomorrow, the subtle but persistent sense that time is passing, and the life she wants is still somewhere out of reach. Her cells are receiving signals of threat. Her body is in survival mode. Not dramatically, not visibly, but biologically, measurably, completely. Same external experience, completely different cellular reality, and completely different vibrational output being broadcast from those two bodies into the field of possibility around them. This is what Dr. Lipton means when he says that the image that occupies the most space in your mind creates the biology you express in your life. He is not speaking metaphorically. He is describing a literal biological mechanism, the process by which perception generates signals. Signals generate cellular responses, and cellular responses generate the physical reality of your life experience. Now bring this directly into the financial domain, because this is where I have lived this most personally and most instructively. During my years in the financial and insurance world, I carried a level of financial fear that I would not have described as fear at the time. I would have called it realism, caution, professional prudence. The appropriate response of someone who understood how markets worked and how quickly circumstances could change. But underneath all of that professional language, what was actually running in my body was a deep, persistent, physiologically active program of financial fear. Fear of instability. Fear of not having enough. Fear of what would happen if the structures I had built my security around were no longer there. And that fear, regardless of what I was consciously intending, regardless of the strategies I was implementing, regardless of the genuine effort I was putting into building something different, was sending signals to 50 trillion cells that said, contract, protect, survive. Do not expand. Do not open. Do not trust that there is enough. And my financial reality, with remarkable biological faithfulness, kept reflecting those signals back at me. The moment I understood this, the moment I saw clearly that my body was not a passive vehicle for my conscious intentions, but an active participant in the creation of my reality, running its own extraordinarily powerful program that was working in direct opposition to everything I was consciously trying to create, something shifted in how I approached the entire practice of manifestation. I stopped asking only what do I need to think differently, and started asking what does my body need to feel differently? What signals am I actually sending to my cells, moment by moment, throughout the ordinary texture of my day? And are those signals aligned with what I am trying to create, or are they broadcasting the exact opposite? That question changed everything, and I want to show you exactly why, by taking you into the specific mechanism that explains why most people are spending 95% of their day with their body running a program they did not choose and are not even aware of. Because that is where the real leverage is, and that is exactly where we are going next. So now we have established something that I think fundamentally changes the way you need to think about your manifestation practice. Your body is not a passive vehicle for your conscious intentions. It is an active co-creator, running its own extraordinarily powerful biological program, sending signals to 50 trillion cells based on deeply embedded perception patterns, and constructing your physical reality from those signals with a consistency and a power that your conscious mind simply cannot override through intention alone. And now I want to take you into the piece that explains why this is so much harder to address than most people realize. Why you can know intellectually that fear is blocking your manifestation, can consciously choose different thoughts, can do the visualization and the affirmation practice with real sincerity, and still find your body running the old program underneath all of it, sending the old signals, producing the old results. The answer lies in understanding the relationship between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And Dr. Lipton's framework for this is the clearest and most practically useful I have ever encountered. Your conscious mind, the part of you that is reading these words, that sets intentions, that chooses to do manifestation work, that wants something different for your financial life, represents approximately 10% of your total mental activity. It is the part of you that thinks, reasons, imagines, and decides. It is creative, flexible, and capable of generating entirely new possibilities. It is where your desires live, and it is where almost all of your deliberate personal development work happens. Your subconscious mind, the part that operates beneath conscious awareness, that runs your habitual patterns and automatic responses, that controls your biological functions and your deeply embedded programs about what is safe and what is dangerous and what is possible and what is not, represents the other 90%. And here's the number that I think is the most important in this entire conversation. Studies suggest that you spend approximately 95% of your waking day running on subconscious programs rather than conscious intention, which means that for roughly 95% of your day, the signals your body is receiving, the biological messages that are determining your cellular environment, and therefore your vibrational output, are coming not from your conscious desires, but from programs that were installed primarily before you were 7 years old. Before you had any capacity to evaluate them, before you had any awareness that they were being installed, before you had any ability to choose whether you wanted them running your biology and your reality. Let that land for a moment, because what it means practically is profound. That 20-minute morning visualization practice, as real and as valuable as it is competing with approximately 23 hours and 40 minutes of subconscious programming running in the background. And subconscious programming, operating at the biological level of cellular signaling, is not something conscious intention can simply overpower through repetition and sincerity alone. This is not discouraging information. It is clarifying information, because it explains precisely why so many people do genuine, committed, sincere manifestation work and still find themselves returning to the same financial patterns. It is not that the law of attraction does not work. It is that the subconscious program, running 95% of the time, sending biological signals of fear and scarcity and limitation to every cell in the body, is generating a vibrational output that is simply more dominant, more consistent, and more physiologically powerful than the conscious intention running the other 5%. So where do these subconscious programs come from? Dr. Lipton is very specific about this. The primary period of subconscious programming is the first 7 years of life, the period during which the developing brain operates predominantly in a highly receptive brainwave state that functions almost identically to hypnosis. During this period, the child's brain is not filtering, evaluating, or critically assessing the information it receives. It is absorbing everything, completely directly, without resistance, and filing it as foundational truth about how the world works and what is possible within it. Every repeated observation of how the adults around you related to money, every emotionally charged experience involving financial security or instability, every message, spoken or unspoken, about what people like you get to have and what remains out of reach, all of it was absorbed into your subconscious during that highly receptive developmental window and filed as the operating program for your biological and energetic reality. I want to share something personal here because I think it illustrates this mechanism more vividly than any abstract explanation can. There was a period during my own process of understanding this framework when I started paying very deliberate attention to the specific signals my body was generating around financial situations. Not the thoughts. I was already working with the thoughts. The physical sensations. The way my body responded to certain financial conversations, certain numbers, certain types of opportunities. And what I discovered was startling in its specificity and its consistency. There was a particular kind of financial expansion, the kind that involved genuine visibility, genuine commitment, genuine movement beyond the boundaries of what had always felt safe, that reliably generated a very specific physical response in my body. A tightening in the chest, a subtle bracing, a physical contraction that happened faster than any conscious thought could have produced it. Automatically. Immediately, before my conscious mind had even fully registered what was happening. That physical response was not a personality trait. It was not a character flaw. It was a subconscious program installed during a period when I had absorbed, from the environment around me, a very specific set of signals about what financial expansion meant and what it typically led to. And that program was running in my body, generating biological signals of contraction and threat every single time a financial opportunity appeared that resembled the original programming. My conscious mind wanted expansion. My subconscious body was broadcasting contraction. And the law of attraction, responding to the dominant and most consistent signal, was faithfully delivering experiences that matched the contraction rather than the expansion. Once I saw that clearly, once I understood that it was not my desire that was the problem but the subconscious biological program running underneath it, the entire approach to changing my financial reality shifted, because I stopped trying to override the program from the outside and started looking for ways to actually change what the program was running from the inside. And that is exactly what we are going to explore in the final part of this conversation, The three pathways that Dr. Lipton identifies for genuine subconscious reprogramming, and how each of them connects directly to the manifestation practices that actually work at the biological level, rather than just the conscious level. So here we are at the part that turns everything we have covered into something actionable. And I want to be direct about what I mean by reprogramming, because this word gets used a lot in the personal development space, in ways that are vague and ultimately not very useful. Genuine subconscious reprogramming is not positive thinking layered over an unchanged biological program. It is not repeating affirmations while your body continues broadcasting fear signals to every cell. It is the actual process of changing what your subconscious is running, replacing the old program at the level where it actually lives, which is the biological, cellular, deeply embedded level that operates beneath conscious awareness. Dr. Lipton identifies three primary pathways to genuine subconscious reprogramming, and I want to walk through each one specifically in the context of financial manifestation, because understanding why each pathway works biologically is what makes the practice feel real and grounded rather than like wishful thinking. The first pathway is the hypnagogic state. Your subconscious is not equally accessible at all times. The deeply receptive brainwave state in which your original programming was installed, the theta state of early childhood, naturally returns twice every single day. In the moments just before you fall asleep, and in the moments just after you wake up, before full conscious alertness has returned, your brain moves through a threshold state in which the critical faculty of the conscious mind relaxes, and the subconscious becomes genuinely receptive to new input in a way it simply is not during ordinary waking consciousness. This is not a metaphor or a spiritual concept. It is measurable neuroscience. And it means that what you bring into those threshold moments, the emotional states you inhabit, the images you hold, the internal language you use, has direct access to the subconscious in a way that your daytime affirmation practice simply does not. I use this window deliberately every single morning and every single night, not to perform a practice, but to genuinely inhabit, for those few minutes of natural receptivity, the felt sense, the emotional signature, the cellular experience of the financial reality I am building, not as a visualization I am watching from the outside. As a lived, embodied, physically felt internal experience of already being there. The difference between doing this in the hypnagogic state versus doing it during ordinary waking consciousness is not subtle. It is the difference between knocking on a door and walking through an open one. The subconscious is genuinely receptive in those moments in a way that makes the same practice exponentially more effective. The second pathway is repetition with genuine emotion. The subconscious does not distinguish between an experience that is actually happening and an experience that is vividly imagined with genuine emotional intensity. This is not a law of attraction concept. It is established neuroscience. The same neural pathways activate, the same biological signals are generated, the same cellular responses occur whether the experience is external or internally generated through imagination. Which means that consistently inhabiting the emotional and biological state of your desired financial reality, not just thinking about it, but genuinely feeling it in your body, generating the actual physical sensation of expansion, of safety, of abundance, repeated consistently throughout your day, is directly reprogramming the subconscious at the biological level. The key word is genuine. The emotion has to be real. A visualization performed from a place of desperate hoping generates the biological signals of desperation. A visualization inhabited from a place of genuine felt certainty generates the biological signals of certainty, and the subconscious responds to the biological signal, not to the conscious intention behind it. This is why the practices we have discussed in previous videos on this channel, the breathwork that activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the hypnagogic state practice before sleep, the conscious redirection of internal language, are not separate techniques but interconnected pathways all pointing toward the same biological goal. Creating the cellular conditions in which genuine reprogramming can actually occur. The third pathway is significant emotional experience. This one is less something you deliberately engineer and more something you can consciously work with when it arises. Dr. Lipton notes that profound emotional experiences, moments of genuine transformation, of deep grief or deep joy, of the kind of radical shift in perspective that permanently reorganizes how you see yourself and what you believe is possible, have the power to install new subconscious programs rapidly and permanently. You cannot manufacture these moments, but you can create the conditions in which they become more likely by doing the inner work consistently, by staying genuinely open to transformation rather than just seeking confirmation of what you already believe, and by allowing the practices of breathwork, meditation, and conscious reprogramming to progressively loosen the grip of the old biological program until a moment of genuine shift becomes not just possible but inevitable. I want to close with something that I think is the most important practical reframe of everything we have covered today. You have not been failing at manifestation. Your biology has been succeeding at running the program it was given, and those are completely different things. The program can be changed. The biology can be updated. The signals your 50 trillion cells are receiving right now do not have to be the signals they receive tomorrow, or next week, or next year. But changing them requires working at the level where they actually live, the subconscious, biological, cellular level, rather than trying to override them from the conscious level alone. Your body is the most powerful manifestation instrument you have when it is aligned with your conscious intention, when every cell is receiving signals of expansion, safety, and abundance, rather than signals of fear, contraction, and survival. The creative capacity that becomes available is extraordinary. That alignment is the work, and everything we have talked about today is a step toward it. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end of this video. It truly means the world to me, and I hope this conversation brought you something real, something that genuinely changes how you relate to your own body and its role in creating the financial reality you are working toward. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel. We have so much more to explore together. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. The books that have shaped my journey are all linked in the description below, and the free PDF on equal hours and their meanings is there too. Grab yours if you have not already. Thank you for being here. I will see you in the next one.